Right, so hey everyone and welcome back to another budget photography video. My main camera has been for the longest time the EOS 500D. It has served me so well, it's done me proud, I love this little thing. Now, my photography needs have changed quite dramatically because I find myself needing better resolution and better low light performance. Now, this and a 50mm 1.8 is pretty good in low light, I won't lie, but it only has an APS-C 1.6 sensor. It's not big enough. I need something bigger. So that's exactly what I brought. I have brought a 5D. Secondhand, like from my last video. This is a 5D Mark II. So, I've now got the 5D Mark II. And I must say, going from something as small as this, now this is quite big on the small side, so to speak. I'm shooting on an even smaller camera here. It's kind of like small, medium and then large. But this is something quite big on the small side, so to speak. But that's mainly because I had a battery grip. But going from something like this to something like this, it's just, this is like, you could do weights with this. Like, it's just, yeah. So I have a lot of reasons as to why I went over to full frame. And one of them is the better low light performance because you have a bigger sensor. If I take the covers off of both cameras, well, this one had, my 5D had a lens on it, but if you look at the size of that and then compare it to that, you can see the size difference. This is 35mm full frame, this is APS-C with a crop factor of 1.6. But what is crop factor? Now I mentioned that this is full frame, but what's full frame? And what's this? This is a Micro Four Thirds Lumix. To understand what full frame is, we have to go back to the film days of when we had quite literally 35mm film, and that's exactly what it was called, is 35mm film. It wasn't full frame, it wasn't a crop, there was no crop factor, you just had a 35mm piece of film in your camera and your lens and you go and shoot. But now we have so many different kinds of camera and so many different kinds of systems, starting with full frame. Now full frame, like this one, is designed to get exactly what you'd get from a 35mm film camera. So the sensor within a full frame camera, I don't know why I keep showing you this, I really don't need to, you know that. So a sensor within a full frame camera is 35mm. So when you have a 50mm 1.8, it is a 50mm 1.8. And this, I tried this lens on that camera the other night, and it's anyway, I need to get on with this video because I need to go out for lunch. But this lens isn't a 50mm on this camera because it has a crop factor of 1.6. This lens on this camera actually becomes an 85mm. It's the same as this kit lens. This is the 18 to 55 kit lens. You times this by 1.6, which then becomes roughly 24mm at the widest setting. And then you have this camera, which is a Micro Four Thirds. So this Canon 500D had a crop factor of 1.6. This has a crop factor of 2. So right now I'm shooting on a, what, 15 to 45? 42? 47mm. So you times that by 2 and it actually becomes quite a closed-in lens if I was to put that on this camera. So this lens goes from a 15 to roughly a 30mm lens because you times it by 2. And as well, if I was to put this 50mm on, this would no longer be a 50mm or an 80mm, this would actually be a 100mm lens, which is actually in a way a good thing for nature photographers. You can pick something up like this get a nice zoom lens like this, and you've actually got, so this lens on my 500D would probably have more of a reach than this lens on my 5D Mark II because of that crop sensor. And it's the same with this camera. If I was to put this lens on this camera, this no longer becomes a 55-200. This lens then becomes a roughly 105 to 400 and something, so it's got more of a reach. So for nature photography, I wouldn't really recommend getting full frame. Okay, yeah, it is still pretty good, but if you're just starting out, buy an APS-C sensor, which is exactly what this has got. Now, there are a lot of videos on YouTube where that people have gone from big cameras to smaller, lighter gear. And that's perfectly fine because that is what they need. For me, I need now full frame. Now, having full frame does have one big problem, and it's because everything is bigger. So first of all, if we go to the bodies themselves, this is a much bigger and tougher body. This is like, I think it's like die-cast aluminium or something. It's weather sealed, it's a tough beast. Whereas this is just plastic, and even with the battery grip, this is a lot smaller. Well, it's taller, but it's a lot slimmer, and just, yeah. Like if I take the battery grip off, there we go. Put the battery grip aside and show you that. Look how much smaller that is. That's just nuts, how small that is. What? And I don't just mean the bodies are bigger. So if we get my Tamron 55-200, which, yeah, okay, I've got bigger reach, but that's designed for a crop sensor, and this is my 75-300. Now, yeah, okay, that's got more of a reach, but even zoomed out, if I zoom the Tamron out, that's its reach. And then there's not much of a difference really in the millimeters of the lenses, but everything becomes bigger because you've got a bigger sensor and you need more glass. And I don't just mean bigger bodies, bigger lenses, it's bigger chargers as well. So I brought an aftermarket battery charger for my 500D so that I could charge 2 batteries at once, which is exactly what I needed for my battery grip. And that is the charger. That is just, it was only like 10 quid, if that. It charges via USB micro or something like that. And I usually actually charge it up via a battery bank that I carry with me if I need to, which is very, very rare. But for my new 5D, that is the charger. That is even the charger's a beast. I mean, look. It's just, in the space of 2 batteries for that, it's just diddy. And then even with the batteries themselves, so if I go into my battery grip for my 500D and pull out one of the batteries that is currently in there, number 1, first one I grabbed, and then go into my 5D Mark II, it's just a hell of a lot bigger. Now, yes, okay, I'm going to get more shots out of this battery than I am out of this. And plus, I also brought another battery. So I have 2. So I don't really need to worry about battery life on this. So one of the other problems with this camera is that it doesn't take an SD card. An SD card is a small compact card that most cameras take. It is a SanDisk. SD doesn't stand for SanDisk, by the way. SD is secure digital, a secure digital card. I use a micro one in my 500D, and I've got a fair few of them laying around the house and in my photography bags. But the 5D takes a CF card, which is a much bigger and actually more powerful card than an SD. It's more reliable than an SD, and lots of other benefits of it that I don't really have time to go through right now. So again, another problem with having a 5D is that 2 of my lenses don't fit. This is again the Tamron. I can line the red dots up and lock it into place, and it looks like as if it fits. But because this is full frame and this is designed specifically for an APS-C, when I look through the viewfinder and try and take a picture, I get a massive vignette. So yes, I can still use this lens on here, but you really probably shouldn't. I mean, the focus motors still work because it's designed for a Canon, but it's not designed as an EF mount. It is designed for Canon's EFS, which is not what this camera accepts. Now, the difference between EF and EFS are very, very simple. EF lenses are designed for full frame. EFS are designed for crop sensors. Now, there are two different ways that you can tell this. One, well, the element itself is a lot bigger, so you've got the EFS here and you've got the EF here. You can see that the element is just bigger. Or, a lot of the time, it's the dot. If you look on the 18-55 and then on the 75-300, on this one you have a white dot, on this one you have a red dot. So a white dot is an EFS lens and a red dot is a EF. But my Tamron has a red dot. Right there, a red dot. So to be fair, even I thought at first, before I looked through the camera, I thought that this lens would work. I'm not going to lie, I did try it on there and it just... So I have now, in a way, kind of lost two lenses, because I now actually have three cameras. I've got this one I'm recording on, my 5D and my 500D. But I've kind of lost the ability to carry and use this lens and my 18-55 and one body. I now, if I want to use these two lenses, I now have to carry my 500D, my 5D, and this one if I'm shooting a video. But to be fair, I'm actually thinking about retiring my 500D or selling it on to someone. Maybe, I don't know. I'm still not sure about that. But for the future, I'm full frame. And I can't wait. Anyway guys, thanks for joining me in this video, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Have a good day.